Champ season is in full swing and Pacific has lost the plot. We've seen Forsaken complete his mission to play every agent, the Frost and Talon reunion somehow flopped, GE was on top until they weren't, and Nongshim climbed from 6th all the way to the 2nd. And that's what makes Stage 2 exciting. Qualifying for the playoffs is only half the battle. Some teams can lose every remaining match and still make champs. Others can finish near the top and still miss out. So welcome to Sinistry, and today we're breaking down every Pacific team's path to champions. Is there still hope for your favorite team, or has the door already closed? Let's find out. So let's start with the team that's sitting pretty, and it's none other than PaperX. They have a massive lead with 25 champs points. They're basically Gear 5 Luffy right now. Although it might not be a good thing to reference Luffy right now, because have you read the latest chapter? Anyway, they're currently the first seed in Omega, so things simply couldn't get any better for the W Gaming squad. These boys are just having fun at this point, and nothing proves that more than their game against Team Secret. I mean, just look at this comp. And if that's still not enough for you, just look at Forsaken using Gecko's ult to detain his own teammates.
Shows you what PaperX can do as well. Once they take things a little bit more slow, they calm things down. They don't have to go all that fast all the time. But now,
so it's safe to say that PaperX is in cruise control right now. But I wouldn't be surprised if they crank it up once the playoffs begin, because getting the first seed comes with a valuable matchup advantage. Their remaining match will be against VARREL, which, surprisingly, will be a battle for the first seed. I find it really hard to predict who wins this one because VARREL is riding a huge wave of momentum. On the other hand, we don't know which version of PaperX we'll get. Will it be the serious one or the troll PaperX? That we will find out this weekend. Now let's talk about the biggest resurgence in Pacific in Gen.G. For context, this team finished last place on Stage 1, which makes it really surprising that they're currently the #1 seed in their group right now. I thought this team would not do anything at this stage, especially since they added 2 newcomers. But I guess the reality of the matter is that the earlier roster that they had held the team's true potential. Gen.G has a slight chance of qualifying via champs points, but with the way they're playing right now, I think they're aiming to go undefeated all the way to the grand finals. They will be up against Full Sense for their last match in groups, and they're making it to the playoffs as the #1 seed regardless of whether they win or lose, which places them directly in the upper semifinals. And speaking of Full Sense, that is a spicy one that we need to talk about later. For now, we have the biggest surprise of Stage 2 in VARREL. I don't think anyone expected this team to be sitting second in Omega, especially with T1 and DRX in the mix. What's even more impressive is that this isn't some fluky run. VARREL has looked genuinely solid throughout the stage, and they have earned every single one of their wins. Unlike PaperX though, VARREL still has a lot of work to do. They only have 3 champs points, so while they're in a nice spot, champs points qualification is pretty much impossible. Their only chance is to make first or second in Stage 2, and having a higher seed in the groups would go well for their cause. Their final group match will be against PaperX in what is essentially a battle for first place, and I would say VARREL needs this more than PaperX does. So if VARREL somehow pulls off the upset, they'll head into the playoffs like Gen.G waiting in the upper semifinals. And now let's talk about Nongshim, because this team has suddenly become the dark horse of Stage 2. It was fascinating because just a few days ago, they were sitting at the bottom of the group, with all hope seemingly lost. But fast forward to today, and they're now in a 3-way tie with GE and ZETA. But the thing is, they have the head-to-head advantage over both teams, which puts them in the second seed. And Nongshim still has multiple ways to make champs. They currently have 14 champs points, which is comfy, but I think they should aim for at least a top 2 finish. Because 14 champs points sound nice and all, but don't let that distract you from the fact that whoever gets top 3 and 4 in Stage 2 gets a sizable amount of champs points. So even a team like Full Sense and GE can give them a run for their money. And their final match will be against RRQ, and with the way the Indonesian squad has been performing lately, it should be smooth sailing for Nongshim as they secure the second seed and lock in their ticket to the playoffs. Now, let's talk about global esports. So I think the team might have the toughest fall in Stage 2. They came out blazing hot with a 2-0 start. trying to prove that they're better off doing their own thing. And in the process, they put themselves in a prime position to become the undisputed top seed of Group Alpha. But I guess lightning struck twice as they were unable to overcome a resurging Gen.G and the RedForce that is Nongshim. And just like that, not only was the first seed out of reach, but also the instant qualification to the playoffs. And unless Nongshim drops their match against RRQ, GE is pretty much dropping to the play-ins even if they win their final match. The consolation for GE and their fans is that they currently have 8 Champs points, which still gives them a path to Champs. Of course, finishing in the top 1 or 2 is the foolproof way to qualify for Champs, but right now, it doesn't look like a possibility. So even a 3rd or 4th place finish would be nice because it would give them a fighting chance to still make it to Champs. And the interesting thing here is, it is going to be a tight battle between them and Full Sense. Well, that's if Full Sense decides to get their shit together and play their game. But before they can consider all of that, they need to get past ZETA first. And so, you can't talk GE without having Full Sense next. Anyway, this team might be one of the biggest disappointments of Stage 2. When Frost reunited with the Talon Core, it felt like the pieces were finally coming together. But instead, the pieces scattered even further apart. They've struggled to find any consistency and now find themselves at the bottom of Alpha. The only silver lining for them is that they currently have 8 Champs points. So, technically speaking, Full Sense still has a realistic path to champions. But there's one huge problem. They need to pull their shit together first. Right now, they don't look like a team that's capable of making a deep playoff run, and that's the part that I'm worried about the most. I know Full Sense has got it in them to be at least a decent team. They have Freemy for fuck's sake. But for some reason, they're just not clicking right now. Their final match will be against Gen.G, and that's where things get tricky. Because on one hand, Gen.G can take it easy since they're already qualified for the playoffs no matter what, but they could also put the hammer down to accumulate more Champs points. A loss for Full Sense also busts the door open for global esports to steal that Champs points advantage. So this last match isn't just another match for Full Sense. It could end up deciding both teams' chances for qualifying in Champs. And can we just take a second to appreciate how scripted this feels? The two teams everyone expected to be near the top, DRX and Full Sense, are both sitting at the bottom of their respective groups. I definitely didn't have this on my VCT 2026 bingo card. Moving on to DFM, this is a team that's been stuck in limbo for years. But this Stage 2 feels different. DFM has quietly kept themselves in the playoff race, and more importantly, they still have 2 paths to Champs. They can either make at least a top 2 finish or qualify via Champs points. The Champs points route, however, comes with a ton of conditions. And the biggest one is DFM needs both Full Sense and Global Esports to not win a single match moving forward. So while it's still technically a path, it's not exactly one DFM would want to rely on. Their final match will be against Team Secret, and this is a godsend because it should be the freest game of all time, giving them the chance to shoot for 2nd place in Omega. That's with the condition that PaperX beats VARREL this week. However, VARREL gets the first seed if they beat PaperX, and DFM will be stuck in 3rd, which will automatically relegate them in play-ins, making the road harder if they're gunning for either a 1st or 2nd place finish in Stage 2. Moving on to the other Japanese team in the league, ZETA Division. I initially have a different thing for ZETA Division, but after seeing that they only beat RRQ and Full Sense, it's pretty obvious that they're just beating the bottom of the barrel teams. Instead of the usual last place, they're currently in a 3-way tie with Nongshim and GE. Unfortunately, Champs points won't be doing them any favors. At this point, their only realistic path to Champs is making a deep playoff run, which means a top 1 or 2 finish in Stage 2. There's simply no room for error anymore. Their final match will be against Global Esports in a battle for 3rd and 4th place. The standings might not change much, but neither team wants to head into the play-ins on the back of a loss. And it's now high time we talk about T1 because this team has somewhat become forgotten, which is crazy to say when this roster was supposed to be a super team. On paper, they had all the pieces to compete for titles, but instead of dominating the league, they've spent most of the year trying to figure out who they are as a team. The good news for T1 and their fans is that they're still in a great position to make champions. They currently have 12 champs points, giving them a solid cushion over a lot of the teams chasing them. Their final group match will be against DRX, and if there was ever a good time to play them, it's now. Because DRX looks completely lost at the moment, especially after trying to make that triple duelist comp work. So on paper, this should be T1's best opportunity to lock in a huge win heading into the play-ins. Now we have Team Secret, and unfortunately, this team has pretty much run out of options. They're sitting dead last in champs points and second to the last in Group Omega. At this point, it's hard to argue they deserve to be anywhere near the champs conversation. But technically, they still have a chance through the play-in. But realistically speaking, asking this Team Secret roster to finish first or second in Stage 2 feels like asking Thanos to snap, only for reality to hit him with a critical error. Their biggest challenge isn't even making champs anymore, it's making sure they don't lose to a tier 2 team in the play-in. Because just imagine the memes. If Team Secret loses to a tier 2 team, we might see Jesse Vash pull a Madara and come back for one last war. Now let's talk about RRQ, as this team has looked surprisingly flat throughout Stage 2. Coming into the split, I thought they'd be one of the stronger teams. Instead, they've struggled to find any real momentum and have spent most of the stage chasing everyone else. But the interesting part about this team is they're actually sitting on 6 champs points, so unlike other teams, they still have something to work with. If they beat Nongshim in their final group match and finish at least 3rd in Stage 2, they would climb to 12 champs points and keep themselves in the champs conversation. Right now, their biggest issue isn't the standings, it's that the team just doesn't seem to be clicking. And unless they figure out something soon, none of the qualification scenarios will matter. And finally, we have DRX. I don't know what happened to this team. They used to be one of the top teams in Pacific, but at this stage, they've looked completely lost. Whether it's the triple duelist comp or an extremely questionable read on the meta, nothing seems to be working. But the good news is they're still sitting on a 5 champs points, so they are not mathematically out of the race just yet. If they beat T1 in their final match and manage to finish at least 3rd in Pacific, they'll move up to 11 champs points and keep their champions' hopes alive. But before they can even think about champs points, they need to figure out how they want to be as a team. Because right now, they don't resemble the DRX we've come to expect. They look like a team searching for answers, and with T1 being their final match in the groups, it looks like answers won't be coming anytime soon. So there you have it. Some teams are already cruising, others are hanging by a thread, and a few are praying that someone else loses before they even get a chance to win. So as always, thank you all for your time. I'll see you down in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed, hit that sub button so you don't miss out, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!